Hi there, welcome back to Creatively Crafted Life. My name is Melanie, and I hope that this is the last one in this series for this go-round of purging cardstock. I'm not sure though, because I have almost 10 inches of paper here, which is a lot. So I don't know if we're going to get through this in one or if there'll be a part two. I guess based on the title, you'll know if there is a second one coming or not. This was all the cardstock I had hidden in my iris bins, which I had thought I didn't keep very much in there. I knew I had a little bit, but not 9.5 inches worth. The bins are where I store the embellishments for specific themes. So not the everyday stuff, but like Disney, travel, kids, school, that kind of thing. Like the very thematic type of embellishments I store there. But I guess I had a bunch of papers. So my goal is to get these all over into the Kallax, either as collections or breaking them down into individual sheets, into individual sheets, which will then go in a bin. You know, if you've been watching the videos at all, you know my method at this point. So let's get this off the desk and get started. Okay, so this is probably the biggest category in there, and it was my vintage / heritage section. Yeah, we'll start with the loose papers and then we'll go on to the collections. This had been pulled from, I think, my travel section. Yeah, which I'm happy to keep in here. This was also from travel. And I'm sure these are all a hodgepodge, mix and match. Okay, Authentique. I actually bought this for the cut-aparts, and I would probably use this more for journaling than scrapbooking or card making. So I'm going to put this aside. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to go yet. Maybe time will tell. This is an old piece of K & Company paper. It's paper. It's not cardstock. I still like it though, so I'm going to hold on to that. We've got some Studio Calico, a couple sheets of that. Lovely Day. Okay, so what do we got here? I think this was from the Paper Pad maybe, or I can't remember. Family Record. Do I like this? Oh, interesting. You can actually pop this out and mount the photos from behind. That's kind of cool. I have a few different family tree kind of things. I have not actually done that yet. And so I don't know what it is exactly that I want to, I don't know exactly how it is that I want to document it. So I think there is something about breaking this out into two different categories between vintage and heritage. I think in my mind, the heritage is going to be what I really want to make sure I try and incorporate into my heritage album, whereas vintage is vintage paper that I could use for whatever reasons. Now, will I use them or could I use them in a heritage album? Absolutely, but they're kind of more generic, I think is what I'm thinking of. Like, to me, this is a very generic piece of vintage paper. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is I don't naturally gravitate towards vintage. I like bolder, brighter papers, generally speaking, but because I don't know what direction I'm taking with this album, I probably will not purge very much unless I find something that I absolutely will not use. So this is from 2012, not this one. These are from 2012 Prima Songbird collection, and they are almost more ephemera bits and pieces than vintage per se. Should I move them over? I don't think they scream necessarily heritage. So I'll put that in here. Same with these ones. I would probably use these like in a vintage journal or something like that. Okay, so that helps me. That helps me a lot. So I think we will leave this in vintage, because I'll probably come to my vintage section if I'm making a vintage journal. There you go. That's my logic. See, more family tree stuff, so that I will put in the heritage section. But the tags we'll leave here. Now this one is not my favorite. I am going to purge that one. I like the florals. There's something about a rose, isn't there, that just screams vintage. I actually don't care for this rose pattern, so I'm going to purge both of those sheets. That's pretty. I threw in some He Said, She Said from Teresa Collins, just because this pattern kind of looks vintagey to me. Now, do I have some of this in my regular stash? Absolutely. I am not always very specific about every single piece of item. Sometimes, you know, it ends up in one place and sometimes in another. Like this one most definitely on this side could go in my colored stash, but I really do like the paper, the like written journal notes on the other side. This has a very 49 and market almost look, but because of the distressing on it, we're going to leave it in vintage. Here's more of that Songbird collection. Oh, yeah. Let's get rid of that one. I don't know if I would use that. Would I use that? I don't know. Maybe in a vintage journal. Now this could go in brick. I have a brick section. But I think it's also okay to leave it in here. I probably would never use this pattern either, but I do have some pattern envelopes that I want to turn into a journal, and that might be kind of fun to include. So I'm convincing myself to keep everything. So maybe this will be another video where I don't end up purging very much. This was from Echo Park. It was called Melody of Life. I don't know that it was intended necessarily to be vintage, but it definitely has a vintage feel, so that's why it ended up in here. A little bit of purple. Ruler. Some music notes. I'm just trying to think, if you were to turn this into a page, a vintage journal page, would that be cute? I think I'm going to purge those two. Just a little too busy for me. Now these I could move to my wood, but I think this lends itself to vintage, so we'll leave it in here. I love this sheet of paper. I have no idea what I would use it for, but I love it. The maps, again, I have a section for maps, but these scream more vintage than travel. I love this kind of paper too, where they just have scanned a bunch of old letters. I think that looks so cool. I am going to purge this one though, because while I like this, this is just too busy for me, so purge that. There's another one of those. I'm going to purge that one. A lot of these are heavily foiled on the other side. They're probably die cuts with a view pad or something. This is from that Songbird collection. This is also from Prima, but this is from the Almanac collection 2012. And then I've got a bunch of black and white, which I don't know if you remember from my last round of purging, I got rid of a lot of these paper pads, but I did keep these because I thought they would be fun in a vintage book or journal. Okay, so the black, it was pretty brutal the last go round. I don't think I will end up getting rid of much of the black, so we're just gonna pan through this to speed it up a little bit. More of that Melody of Life paper. Okay, now we've got some Legacy. I'm going to put that in Heritage. Again, I don't know if I will use these, but I don't want to get rid of them because maybe I will. That was from Simple Stories, by the way. This is from Grandma's House from the Paper Loft. I really don't need that many family trees, but you know, it is what it is. Here's another authentic one that I am going to leave in the vintage section. Okay, so we got purged a little bit. We've got two subcategories. This is going to go in a bin, and we'll move on to the next group. Actually, I forgot. I had the collections to go through. So I've got some Stamperia. I did put this in vintage because of the look. Will I keep this together as a collection? I don't know if I would. Actually, no. I'm going to just put this in the vintage section. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. It's just going to go in vintage. So we'll turn this over. There you go. Okay, then I've got Love Letters from Minte. I'm also putting this in vintage, although it definitely could be everyday, or it could go under love. Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know where I'm going to put it. Where would you put it? Love Letters. Actually, let's have a look at it, right? The front sheet never does it justice, so let's have a look at it. So we've got like an old record player, stacks of letters, some vintagey looking paraphernalia. We've got like a feather quill. We've got an old typewriter. Right, those are the icons. Would you put this in love, vintage, or everyday? I mean, like this could be everyday. These would make cute cards. And then they repeat. Or maybe I split it. Maybe that's what I do. Maybe I split it. There you go. Yes? No, I don't think I want to split it. I don't think I want to split it. I think I want to put it one place, but I don't know where. So we're going to put this aside, and maybe as I, work through these, I will come up with something. It's like, just because it's got the word love letters and love in there doesn't mean it has to be love. Okay, transatlantic travel. I definitely have this in vintage because it looks vintage. I think I would keep this together. I think this would be fun to document my grandparents immigrating to Canada using these papers. I don't know that I have a lot of information. I know I have a photo of my maternal grandparents, I think, coming off a plane. My paternal grandparents came across on a boat, and I don't know if I have anything on that. Sticker sheet could go somewhere else, but in this case I'm going to make an exception. It's very highly specific. I can't see me wanting to use it for anything other than this. This I think I'm going to put in Heritage, just because now that I've talked about it, I think it would be good to use it for documenting those stories, and maybe after that point then I will move it over to just general vintage. Okay, I have another Minte collection. This one's called Written Memories. I had this in the vintage section as well, probably because of the typewriter and the old phone and like the receipts and stuff like that. So the question is where do I put this one? I'm just going to flip through it. Oh, it's so pretty. So pretty. And then I think it repeats. So I'm definitely not breaking it apart. But I think it'll go in the same place wherever love letters go. Although this one doesn't have the word love in it, so I guess that maybe eliminates one choice. Maybe? I don't know. Okay, this is Simple Stories, Simple Vintage Ancestry. Again, we kind of got that tree look. some pretty florals. It's definitely got that vintage look of their last rounds of collections the last couple of years. I am going to put this in my heritage book because I think that's where I would use it, and we're going to leave it as a collection. Okay, up next is Simple Stories Flea Market. I'm not even going to go through this one, but that is going to stay in vintage. And I think this is the last of what I'm calling vintage and heritage. I have Maggie Holmes Heritage. Now, I don't remember what I'll have from this one. So it looks like we've got some embellishments, and this is, I think, my mind's eye. Yeah. Well, you know where the embellishments are going. Now, what do we got here? I've got a project pad and some individual sheets. So let's see if we want to put this actually in heritage or if we just want to put it in vintage. So it does have the word family and generations and floral. Oh, I love this. I love stamps. I really like that. Oh, family tree again. How many different ways can I put the family tree up, right? Cameras are nice. Oh, a few sheets of that. I don't know how many times I bought this kit. Looks like 3. No, actually, I think I didn't buy this as a kit. I think, if memory served me correctly, I bought this on sale at Joann's. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get rid of any of these. You could argue that it's heritage. You could also argue that it's just home. And I think that's where I'm going to put it. I don't even think I'm going to put it in vintage because it doesn't scream overly vintage to me. So I am going to keep it as a kit. Am I going to keep it as a kit? Let me think about that. Let's pull the pad apart. Okay, let's see what these stickers are like. They're okay. They're not paper thin, but they're also not super thick. I am going to purge these alphabets. I know I won't use those, for sure not. Ooh. The only reason why I buy these paper pads is because they're on sale. They usually have a lot of specialty papers in them, which are not my kind of go-through. So let me pull this out and I'll be right back. Okay, so only because I'm keeping the collection am I going to keep this foiled sheet. I don't really know what to do with this kind of pattern. What would you guys do? So I guess you could put a photo, but it just seems like so much foiling. It doesn't really cut very well because of the way the pattern is, but I'll put it in here when I'm finished my heritage stuff, then, you know, maybe we'll purge it if it's not used. So there are some tags in here. Just looking at the sayings, these are not probably things I would typically say, so I'm going to purge that sheet. These glitter sheets are going to go in my specialty papers. The cut aparts we'll put in here. Now this one. This would go cute with those scissors. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull this one out of the collection and put it near those scissors in the vintage, because that's probably where I would use it. This wood grain I'm not loving, so I'm going to purge that. Don't care for that, so we're going to purge that too. The florals will tuck in here. This background frame we're going to purge. Words we're going to purge. Floral will keep. And then I think the rest of these are solids, which I'm just going to move into my solid cardstock. Okay, this will go in a sleeve, and let's move on to the next category, I think. Actually, this feels like a perfect spot to cut off this video and hold you in suspense for the next bit. So be sure to stay tuned for that. But for today, we're going to wrap up the vintage section and call it a a day. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. And until next time, happy organizing.